beyond the sixth sense. Samantha closes her
My name is Samantha.
slow breath.
Since childhood, I have carried a gift I never fully understood. While most people see darkness when they close their eyes, I sometimes see something else. Fragments of forgotten memories, echoes from another time, voices that belong neither to the living nor completely to the dead. Through meditation, I can connect with energies that exist beyond our physical world, a place where unfinished stories linger, a place where lost souls wait to be heard. This gift has led me into places most people would never dare enter, and sometimes, through deep meditation, I connect with souls who remain trapped between worlds. Over the years, I have learned that every spirit carries a story. Some seek justice, some seek forgiveness, and some seek revenge. This is the story of one of the most disturbing cases I have ever investigated, a case that involved an entire village, a case that uncovered a secret buried for generations, a secret so horrifying that it changed the lives of thousands of people forever. And it all began shortly after I solved the mystery at the rural police station. A week after returning home, I received a phone call. The caller sounded terrified. His voice trembled as he spoke. He introduced himself as Jose. He belongs to a tribal farming community located deep in a remote rural region, nearly 6 hours from my town. What he told me immediately caught my attention. According to him, their village had been suffering from a curse for decades. Not a curse affecting one family, not a curse affecting one house, a curse affecting an entire community. The tribe consisted of roughly 1,500 people. Most families survived through farming. They lived simple lives. The community remained isolated from the outside world. Most villagers had little formal education. Ancient traditions still shaped everyday life. Old rituals remained important, and many still believed strongly in spirits, witchcraft, and supernatural forces. Jose explained the curse. For nearly 30 years, a shocking pattern had emerged. Whenever a boy was born into many of the village families, there was a high chance he would be born with serious health problems: blindness, deafness, immune disorders, developmental conditions, physical deformities. The conditions varied, but the suffering remained constant. What made the situation stranger was this: when girls were born into the same families, they were perfectly healthy. The curse seemed to target only boys. Not every family suffered, but nearly 60 to 70% did, and no one could explain why. Jose's wife was pregnant with their first child. The family lived in fear. Because government regulations prohibited prenatal gender determination, they wouldn't know whether the baby was a boy or girl until birth. If it was a girl, they would celebrate. If it was a boy, they feared the curse. The story intrigued me, not because I believed immediately in a curse, but because unusual patterns often hide forgotten truths, and sometimes forgotten truths create powerful spiritual consequences. I agreed to visit. The journey took nearly 6 hours. The farther I drove, the fewer signs of civilization remained. Modern buildings disappeared. Cell phone service became unreliable. Paved roads slowly gave way to narrow dirt paths. The landscape felt untouched by time. Fields stretched endlessly across the horizon. Small farms dotted the countryside. The world seemed quieter there, older, almost disconnected from reality itself. By late afternoon, I arrived. The village looked unlike any place I had ever visited. Small mud houses stood clustered together. Children ran barefoot through dusty paths. Smoke rose from cooking fires. Animals wandered freely. the pace of life seemed completely different. Jose greeted me warmly. His wife, Maria, stood beside him. His elderly parents welcomed me as if I were family. Several generations lived together under one roof. The joint family tradition remained strong within the tribe. That evening, I listened carefully as Jose's parents described the curse. Their stories mirrored everything I had already heard. Family after family suffered, generation after generation. No doctor had solved it. No ritual had ended it. No prayer had lifted it. The village remained trapped in fear. The following day, I began visiting affected families, one by one. House after house, story after story. A blind teenage boy, a deaf young child, a boy suffering from severe autoimmune illness, another who struggled to walk, another who had never spoken. The details changed, the pattern remained. What struck me most was the contrast. Many of these boys had sisters, healthy sisters, intelligent sisters, active sisters, girls who attended school, girls who helped their families, girls who laughed and played without limitations. The villagers openly admitted something surprising. Today, daughters were considered blessings. In fact, many families hoped for girls. Pregnancy often created anxiety because people feared having sons. That night, I sat for meditation. The village slept around me. Only the distant sounds of insects disturbed the silence. Slowly, my consciousness drifted deeper. At first, I saw fragmented images. Nothing clear, only pieces. A large gathering, a ceremonial structure, people kneeling in prayer, men holding offerings, women standing behind them, and at the center, a child, a boy, being celebrated, almost worshipped. The vision faded. The next morning, I asked Jose about the structure I had seen. To my surprise, he immediately recognized it. There had once been an important tribal worship site, but it had been abandoned many years earlier. I asked him to take me there. The structure stood deep within the forest. Time had nearly reclaimed it. Ancient wooden pillars leaned sideways. Stone statues covered in moss lined the pathways. Vines wrapped around sacred symbols. The place felt forgotten. As I explored, something unusual became obvious. Every statue represented a male deity. Every carving, every symbol, every image, male. Not a single female deity existed. I asked why. The answer shocked me. According to village elders, previous generations believed sons were vastly superior to daughters. Families prayed constantly for boys. The entire culture revolved around producing male heirs. Girls received fewer opportunities. Many never attended school. Most were expected to remain indoors. Early-age marriages were common. Girls were born to take care of family, cooking, doing house chores, and give birth. Girls had no right on their parents' and husbands' properties. Families struggled with heavy dowries. That is why girls are so undesirable. This created a vicious cycle on the age-old oppression and suppression of the girls. As generations passed, the imbalance worsened. The number of girls steadily declined. Young men eventually struggled to find wives. Families began bringing women from neighboring communities. Everything had become distorted. Then, Jose said something unforgettable. The curse changed everything. Today, daughters were celebrated because people feared having sons. The curse had completely reversed the community's values. The worship place became abandoned, as boys are no longer being celebrated in this tribal community. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had learned. The entire situation felt deeply connected to something larger, something hidden, something painful. I was feeling blessed for being born in a community and a family where boys and girls were never discriminated. I am so blessed. After sunset, I began another meditation session. This time, the visions arrived quickly, and they were far more disturbing. I saw a river, beautiful, alive, flowing freely through untouched land. Then the water slowed, the current weakened, the river became stagnant, dark, silent, dead. The image changed. A young woman was giving birth inside a small hut. Family members waited anxiously outside. Moments later, the midwife emerged. She announced the baby's gender, a girl. The father's smile vanished. The grandparents looked furious. The room filled with disappointment, anger, resentment. Instead of celebrating life, they cursed the mother. The vision repeated, again and again and again. Different families, different generations, same result. Girl after girl, rejected at birth. I suddenly opened my eyes. My chest felt tight. I was shaking. Something terrible had happened in this village, something repeated countless times. The next morning, I asked about the river. To my surprise, everyone immediately recognized the description. There was only one place matching it. We traveled there. The location lay miles from civilization. No homes, no farms, no people. Only wilderness, only silence. The river looked exactly as I had seen. Dead, motionless, covered in algae. Dark green water barely moved. Snakes slithered through the reeds. Rotting vegetation covered the banks. The atmosphere felt suffocating. The moment I stepped closer, I became physically ill. A crushing heaviness surrounded the area. The energy felt wrong, deeply wrong. I knew something remained hidden there, something enormous. I asked the family to contact local police. The officers arrived later that day. At first, they hesitated. There was no evidence, no witnesses, only my instincts. But my previous investigations had gained public attention. Eventually, they agreed to investigate. Excavation was scheduled for the following morning. The next day, the entire village gathered. Police officers arrived with equipment. Curious villagers watched from a distance. The digging began. Hours passed. Nothing appeared. Then suddenly, someone shouted. A small skeleton emerged from the earth. A baby. The crowd fell silent. Then another skeleton appeared, and another, and another. The deeper they dug, the more remains they found. Dozens, then hundreds. The entire village stood frozen. No one could believe what they were seeing. News spread rapidly. Reporters arrived. Television crews appeared. The discovery became national news. Forensic teams worked for days. Eventually, the truth emerged. Every skeleton belonged to a newborn girl. The remains spanned multiple generations, decades of victims, decades of secrets, decades of silence, decades of discrimination, decades of abuse, decades of lust and greed. The horrifying truth became impossible to ignore. For generations, baby girls had been murdered shortly after birth. Their tiny bodies were hidden in the river. The river itself had become a graveyard, and suddenly everything made sense. The curse, the suffering, the boys, the patterns. The spirits of those murdered girls had never found peace. Their pain lingered. Their anger remained. Generation after generation, they watched. Generation after generation, they remembered. The curse was not random. It targeted descendants of families involved in the killings. Every family whose ancestors participated eventually suffered. No one escaped. The village finally understood. The curse was revenge. I planned to leave the following day, but first I needed one final meditation. That night, I sat alone beneath the stars. Almost immediately, hundreds of tiny lights appeared before me. Not frightening, not angry, peaceful. the spirits of the girls. For the first time, they no longer seemed filled with rage, because the truth had been revealed. Their existence had finally been acknowledged. I watched as many of them began moving toward a beautiful white light, slowly, peacefully, freely. The next morning, I gathered the entire village. I told them what I had seen. I explained that the spirits needed something they had never received: respect, recognition, proper final rites. The village listened carefully. That week, a massive community ceremony was organized. Every family participated. Thousands attended. People cried openly. Elders apologized. Parents wept. Entire generations confronted painful truths. Prayers were offered. Flowers were placed. Names were spoken. Forgiveness was requested. For the first time in decades, the village united, not through fear, but through healing. The ceremony lasted until sunset, and when it ended, the atmosphere felt different, lighter, peaceful. The curse had finally begun to break. The next day, I returned home. A month later, my phone rang. It was Jose. His voice overflowed with excitement. His wife had given birth, a healthy baby boy. No abnormalities, no defects, no curse. Just a healthy child. The entire family celebrated, and they thanked me repeatedly. But deep down, I knew the real heroes were the villagers themselves. They had faced the truth, accepted responsibility, and finally honored the innocent souls they had forgotten. By then, my name had spread far beyond my town. Messages arrived daily. Calls arrived constantly. People wanted help, answers, hope. I had become one of the most recognized paranormal investigators in the region. And for the first time, I had to choose which cases deserved my attention. Then, one particular call arrived. A wealthy businessman. A desperate man. He had recently purchased a massive estate for a fraction of its value. The reason was simple. Everyone believed it was haunted. The estate included a sprawling mansion, ancient grounds, hidden tunnels, and a dark reputation stretching back more than a century. He offered a substantial payment if I could uncover the truth and remove the haunted reputation forever. At the time, I had no idea that the estate concealed one of the darkest mysteries I would ever encounter. A mystery involving love and loyalty, and spirits that refuse to leave. And that investigation would become my 5th case. To be continued. Coming soon, Beyond the Sixth Sense, Episode 5, The Haunted Estate.
Beyond the sixth sense. Samantha closes her eyes, slow breath, sitting still in the dark. She can feel them, cold air, sudden chill. Beyond the sixth sense, she knows, she knows. Beyond the sixth sense, where every secret flows. Beyond the sixth, beyond the sixth, beyond the sixth sense, she feels them drawing near. Samantha sees and beyond the sixth. defects.